Stuart Blake collection of Lincoln Cents, better known perhaps as the Red Copper collection on the PCGS registry, has been sold by Grit Collections for more than $7.7 million. Let's take a look at some of the highlights. Let's kick things off with a key date for the series, the 1931 S Wheat Cent. It is counted as the second lowest regular issue mintage figure for the series at only 866,000 coins minted, a very low mintage for the series. The current coin was graded by PCGS as MS66 Red, and at the auction it sold for the final price of $10,069.89. One of the best cases of doubling on the reverse of a Lincoln Cent in the entire series is the 1983 double die reverse coin. Very strong evidence of offset hub doubling can be seen across the entire reverse design, most notably on the letters of 1 cent, as they are the largest and most prominent on the design, but also on the various letters of E pluribus unum, where all of the doubling is displayed due south of the final impression. Graded as MS68 Red by PCGS, this popular variety was sold at auction for $11,306.25. One of the top double die varieties from the Memorial Cent series comes to us from 1972. The 1972 double die obverse cent is a strong example of rotated hub doubling, displaying clockwise spread across the entire coin. As is typical, the date displays this effect especially attractively, but the rest of the letters on the obverse are also very strongly affected in their own right. Graded by PCGS as MS67 Red Plus, this brilliant coin was sold at auction for $17,437.50. A very rare variety that, frankly, you'd be lucky to acquire in any grade, let alone a full red gem like this, is the 1929 S over S repunched mint mark coin. There is good reason, after all, that this is a Konica Top 100 listed repunched mint mark variety, with the remnants of the initial S mint mark seen directly towards the top of the final impression. Graded by PCGS as MS66 Red, the closing price at auction for this beauty was $26,837. One of my favorite varieties for the Lincoln series is the 1917 double die obverse penny. It's not the most aggressive doubling, but the classical Class 1 rotated hub doubling displays evenly across all of the details of the coin, making it all the more perplexing that this variety remained undiscovered for decades following its release. Although that fact does explain the lack of high-grade examples in the market today. This example was graded by PCGS as a spectacular MS65 Red, which saw a closing price at auction of $29,812. A variety coin for which high-grade examples are almost unheard of and seen even less is the 1925 S over S penny. The repunched mint mark variety lists only a handful of truly mint state specimens, and most of that population is concentrated in the brown, or rarely at best, the red-brown columns. With a boldly repunched mint mark, the popularity of this coin is easy to explain as well. Graded as PCGS MS65 Red, which makes it the finest known of its type. It sold for $42,259.99. A slightly more modern gem from this collection, at least in terms of it being a memorial cent, was the 1970 MS Large Date Double Die Obverse Penny, a spectacular red book listed variety that is sometimes unfairly overlooked in favor for its more flamboyant varieties from the preceding and following years. It nonetheless has very strong doubling on the obverse letters and the date alike, with the In God We Trust section being especially eye-catching, graded by PCGS as MS66 Red, with none finer noted on the combined population reports. It sold at auction for $42,750. The 1914 Denver Mint wheat cent has been considered a key date in the series ever since collecting by date and mint mark was broadly popularized in around the early 1930s or so. On a 1935 price list of US coins, the 1914D is the most expensive Lincoln cent at $2. This, while the 09S VDB was listed for a mere 25 cents. The top grade and impeccable eye appeal of this coin secured a closing price at auction of $109,687. Ever since 1982, our beloved Lincoln penny has been struck on debased zinc core coins with a thin copper coating, a cost-saving measure implemented when the formerly 95% copper coins became too expensive to justify. But in 1974, a similar measure was proposed, and a large number of coins were actually struck from aluminium instead. None of those coins were ever actually released into circulation, and the piece here is technically an error coin, struck over top an existing 2 paisa coin from Nepal. Graded by PCGS as Proof 68 Cameo, it was sold at auction for $199,687. Now, one of the more interesting coins in the Lincoln penny series is the 1922 No D cent. You see, in 1922, the Philadelphia Mint was largely closed for renovations, only striking peace dollars, double eagles, and a very small number of commemorative half dollars. So, imagine the surprise when a small number of pennies were discovered with no mint mark, which would traditionally indicate the Philadelphia Mint as its place of origin. It turns out that the obverse die was badly damaged and aggressively polished to remove said damage, in the process removing inadvertently so the D mint mark as well. Seeing a coin like this with red luster is almost unheard of. This MS64 red example sold for $253,125. A coin that requires little to no introduction is 1955 Double Die Obverse Penny, probably the best known variety coin out there, with doublings so bold that it could easily be spotted with the naked eye. Every single element of the obverse design is doubled to at least some degree, but none stand out more than the date, which has become this variety's hallmark. Graded by PCGS as MS65 Plus Red, which secured a final price at auction of $287,156. The first of 2 1909 cents to make its way onto this list is on display now. This is an enigmatic and extremely rare 1909 SVDB Lincoln penny. This first year of issue coin is distinguished by the fact that only 484,000 coins like this were minted, with the VDB initials on the reverse at the San Francisco Mint. All subsequent coins had the designer's initials removed. This is once again a Pop 1 example graded as MS67 Red on an old school green PCGS label that sold at auction for the astounding amount of $345,375. Now we have a matte-proof version of the rare 1909 VDB coin, minted before the VDB initials were removed from the design of the coin. Even though this issue has a mintage of 1,194 coins. They were so unpopular with contemporary collectors that today we only see an estimated surviving population of around 65 coins that still retain the original red mint luster. This example is graded as proof 67 plus red. To put that into context, the ESM and Bender collections only included proof 66 examples of this coin. At auction, this coin was sold for $365,625. Now, as many coin searchers would already be well aware, the 1919 wheat cent is not exactly a rare coin. With a massive mintage of 392 million coins, it is probably the easiest pre-1930 penny to come across. What we have here is no ordinary 1919 cent. It is an immaculate example, not only the Pop 1 coin for its issue, but, at least to my knowledge, the only MS69 fully red wheat cent graded by PCGS. Add to that an absolutely flawless strike quality, and you begin to understand why this coin was sold at auction for $421,875. Yet another new record was set by the next coin, the famous 1969S double-die obverse memorial cent, following only the 1955 coin from before. This is easily the most sought-after penny in the series, especially when you are directly addressing variety coins. With extremely bold doubling on virtually all of the obverse elements, it made headlines in 2018 when a PCGS MS64 coin like this was sold for $126,000. But this coin, the sole finest known at a grade of MS66 red from PCGS with CAC endorsement, was sold here for $601,875. And of course, the undisputed highlight of the auction was the 1958 double-die obverse wheat cent, the finest graded of only 3 coins known to exist for this type. Now, I've already made a more in-depth video about this coin alone, so I won't go into too many details here, but it is a spectacular variety that very few people even get a chance to see, let alone own, and is sure to be the crowning jewel of any Lincoln Cent or variety coin collection. It easily obliterated records when it was sold at auction for $1,136,250. Subscribe to WNN and consider watching the video about that 1958 penny next. For the World Numismatic News, I am Numisman saying thank you for watching. Keep collecting and have a fantastic day.